welcome to another SARE National Session. My name is Jenny Anchondo, and I am here as your host and moderator for today's event. Gosh, we always look forward to these each and every week, and I tell you what, the speakers and their background, they just continue to get better and better as we continue to learn and grow with one another. So, okay, the topic for today is the strength-driven business, how to align your talents with scalable growth with Nancy M. Pérez. So she says that you don't have to be everything to everyone to build a thriving business. This workshop is going to work for those of us in STEM to uncover our core strengths and use them as a strategic advantage to grow sustainably. So this is part one of a two-part series. So we'll be able to hear from her next week. If you are catching the replay, those replays always come out the Wednesday before the next session. So there's plenty of time to be able to do that. Before we get into our speaker for today, I want to tell you a little bit about Nancy M. Pérez. She is a business growth strategist. She's a strength-based coach. She's an engineer and an empowerment advocate. How is that for a resume? So she's this powerhouse speaker, business strategist, certified coach. We're talking about more than 2 decades of international experience in engineering, operations, and entrepreneurship. She is the co-founder of a business called Build It Up, which is actually a consulting firm, a civil engineer with dual MBAs, certifications in project management, facilities management, and a 6 Sigma black belt. I'm going to have Nancy explain what that means further because I'm super intrigued. Nancy, take it away.
Thank you very much, Jenny, for such an introduction. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my presentation. Well, welcome everybody. My name is Nancy, and today I want to share with you a message that is deeply personal and powerfully transformative, especially for those of you who are in STEM, entrepreneurs, or are interested in leadership roles. This is the strength-driven business, how to align your talents with scalable growth. Because sustainable success doesn't come from doing more. It comes from becoming more aligned with who we truly are. But before we dive into growth strategies, let me take a moment to recognize the reality that as individuals, we all face in STEM. Our journey is often marked by barriers, some visible and some are internal. But acknowledging these challenges is the first step in rewriting our own story. As a woman, a mother, and an engineer, and an international project management consultant, I've been through seasons of doubt, pressure, and reinvention. I've failed and I've started over, but I have also discovered something extraordinary. When I aligned my life and business with my natural strengths, everything changed. And that's what I'm here to share with you today. The data you want to see in our next screen is clear. As people and individuals, but also as women, we are not underrepresented, but underpowered. Whether you are a woman or have women in your life, you need to be aware of these statistics. Women are not underqualified. Like I said, we are underrepresented and often underclaimed. Only 28% of the global STEM workforce is female. In engineering, it drops to just 16%, and only 1 in C-level leaders in STEM are women. But here's the truth. It's not about capacity. It's not about competence. It's about visibility. It's about support. And mostly, it's about taking action. It is time we stop waiting for permission and start building our own platforms. And that's exactly why we need a different kind of fuel for our growth, one that starts from within. Let's talk about strengths and those natural talents we carry that often go unnoticed. When we align who we are with what we want, we can completely transform our own trajectory. Your strengths are not random. They are your internal blueprint. When you work in alignment with them, you gain energy, clarity, and confidence. You stop forcing strategies that don't fit and start building a business rooted in authenticity. And guess what? Authenticity is not a soft skill, it's a strategic advantage, especially for people like us who bring empathy, resilience, and multidimensional thinking to the table. So, trying to align your work with your strengths is challenging, but when we do it, everything shifts. Your energy, your confidence, your clarity. But how do we move from insight to action? That's where the alignment formula comes in. Let me show you the 4 steps that changed the game for me. Sustainable growth doesn't start with hustle, it starts with alignment. That's why I created this alignment formula, a 4-step process to scale a business with purpose. The first step is to discover. Discover your natural strengths and what makes you uniquely powerful. Step number 2 is to design a business model that fits your genius and your life. Step 3 is to delegate what drains you so you can focus on what really matters to your goals. And step number 4 is to develop systems and teams that multiply your impact. We are living in a moment of artificial intelligence where so many tools are available for you to use, which makes all of this completely possible at a very low cost for anyone who wants to try it. My journey followed those exact steps, and this is the reason why I know it works. I discover my strengths, but I also discover my saboteurs. I designed a vision-led business and started with the end in mind. I sought out people with different strengths and similar values, and I learned to delegate, and that was not easy. As I developed a replicable model and a method powered by systems and automation, I was able to grow my business without burning out, which is one of the challenges as entrepreneurs and women in business with multiple tasks to complete during a day, we face as challenge. Right now, I am still building, I'm still dreaming. But now I have a method and I have a mission. And every time I set a challenge, I know I can use this method. That mission became a movement, and that was something I did not expect. Strength Quest is a program I had to create for individuals who are ready to grow in harmony with who they truly are. It is not about fixing weaknesses. It's about activating your strengths to build a business and a life that feels aligned, profitable, and powerful. In just 90 days, any person can discover their strengths, create a design for a growth path, and start delegating with clarity, confidence, and develop a sustainable system for impact in your life and your businesses. When we have been told to lead like this person or that other, to compete like this athlete or that role model, we forget that as humans, we have our uniqueness. It is our intuition, our empathy, our ability to lead with both strength and softness, which makes every person unique. These are not liabilities. They are unique traits that will differentiate us from the rest of the people. They become our individual superpowers. When we build systems, when we build companies, when we build processes that fit us, we rise. And when we rise, we bring others with us. Together, we are bound to build legacies. Now that you've seen the path, that you felt the spark. Now it's time to choose yourself. Reflect that you have already grown so much. Imagine what's possible when you invest intentionally. Realign not only your doubts, but your goals, your dreams. Reframe your thinking. Unlock your strength. Recommit to saying yes to your business, yes to your dreams, to that income you want to have, to the impact you were made. And figure that today is not only your beginning, but your moment of breakthrough. Today, with me, I have a couple of my teammates, Danny Fajardo and Carlos Solis. They are here available for questions. And if there's anything that you would like to know more of what we do and how we can help you become the version of yourself, the version of your business, of the growth that you are seeking for, please reach out to us. Every individual who chooses to grow is opening a path for someone else. Your alignment, it's not only for you, it's a legacy in motion. I want to thank you for spending this time with me. And if you're ready to build your business in alignment with your strengths, I invite you to join us in the Strength Quest. Thank you, Jenny.
Okay, Nancy, awesome. Thank you. So we still have almost 50 minutes to talk. So we've got a long time to chat. I think that we've got enough time for us to rewind way back in your history and just learn a little bit more about you. Once we learn more about you, it'll give them some ideas in terms of what they could ask you about and what makes sense. I want to hear how your career started out. Let's talk original Nancy, fresh out of school, freshly educated. How did your career start out?
Well, thank you, Jenny, for asking that. Basically, my career started out trying to do something different. My main profession was civil engineer, and when fresh out of college, I started working in areas of building and control and monitoring. And I want you to picture that I started working in Central America where there was not much technology available. So coming from education paths where you had a lot of technology available, a lot of resources available, and working in an environment with so many limitations, it makes you creative, to say the least. So I had the experience to tropicalize, to say it somehow, all of these methods, methodologies, and process, and become creative, making them work with what was available. And that meant training a lot of people. That meant switching paths and then becoming an expert on how things were supposed to work. um, Rewriting methodologists. And a while ago, while you were reading my my resume, you asked a little about Six Sigma. Six Sigma is
Yes.
quality. Yeah. So basically, what I had to do was to learn to do things right from the very first time and set a lot of control points that would allow us throughout our path, throughout the streamline of production, to not have as many errors in the outcome. So this is where my background and my education became fundamental because I had to create tools and adapt tools and probably certain um, templates, adapt them to our reality. And that helped us create and build it up um, systems for control and monitoring from small construction sites to real big construction sites. Now, you'll say, well, that's construction. Yes. But parallel to that, I started a beauty salon, which became a small franchise. And we had to replicate the model in order to make it become a franchise. So I used my engineering background and I used all of these documents and templates that I was creating for my engineering business to apply into my beauty salon business. And it was really it was a breakthrough. It was something different. And throughout 20 years, it helped us offer a very different service very low cost, and very profitable.
This is wonderful. Okay. Now I have more questions, right? Okay. How many different jobs and positions have you done over the years?
Well, there is me as a civil engineer, there
Okay.
is me as a CEO, and a CEO to a company focused on control and managing projects, and me as a CEO of a beauty shop company creating salons. And
Oh,
and I'm a mom as well, so I had to, also became the head of my family and had to do that as well.
you're kind of doing it all. So I get why you're
Yes.
able to speak on this topic. Now, when you were, and I'm going to rewind now. Now I have further questions about rewinding further. What did young Nancy want to do when she grew up? What did you have one of those, when I grow up, I want to be a CEO? Were you always in leadership, or talk about that?
Yeah, my dad's, he has a very beautiful story. He says that when I was 7 years old, I came to him one Sunday and I told him, Papa, I want to be a civil engineer. And he was like, okay, okay. And he got me some Legos, because I was 7 years old. So he went to the store the very next day and he got me some Legos. And every day after work, he would dedicate some time to review my homework, but especially to play with me with the Legos because he wanted to, know more. And this is something I have always appreciated from my dad because he has never said no. Okay. To any dream or thing that I wanted, he was okay. Okay. And how are you going to do it? So even if I was a small girl, he would help with creative thinking. He will help with solutions. And I think that that's something that throughout my life and my adulthood has completely changed my way of looking at things, of creating strategies and looking at problems, because I never look at the problem. I always find a solution first. And it's just helps you shift the way you think.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. So you've really been, like you said, your dad realized a gift in you and realized, okay, we need to pay attention to this. We need to lean into this, which I think is so, so special. Talk about what you studied in school. What did you study first? And then I think that trajectory
Yes.
is interesting.
Thank you. So I went to school, and my first degree is my bachelor's degree is civil engineering. But while I was in school, uh, you have to understand my dad, he's a PhD in economics. So growing up, I would hear a lot of economy, I would hear a lot of business talks, a lot of financial talks, and he worked with how can I say this? A development bank for Central America.
Okay.
And they had projects oriented to developing highways, bridges, education, but also to strengthen governments. So growing up, I would hear a lot of those conversations. And since we are bilingual, my dad made sure that we did not lose our Spanish background.
Hmm.
So he would read books in Spanish with us. He would help us write things. And sometimes it was like, okay, write in the computer and I'll dictate you something. And it would be one of his reports so that he wouldn't, get behind in his work. And that's how I became interested in infrastructure, but also in business, finance, and economics. So fresh out of college, I decided to go in for the first MBA. And the main focus at that MBA is a major in finances. But growing up and starting a business, you find challenges. And that's when I went to my global MBA, which has four different majors. To say it's very interesting because it is a major in economy, a major in international marketing, a major in business administration and leadership, and a major in operations management. So that gave me a complete global perspective of how to shift my engineering business into something different for project management. And that's exactly what we do now. Because when you look at our projects, the way we approach project management and operations is just completely transformative for our clients and for our projects.
So it's yeah, it's your whole you're able to connect the dots backwards. Like, okay, this is kind of what created this future. And when I want to talk about what you do today, when I was reading that bio, it's almost like, people are hearing a bio that people want to put somebody in a box. Okay, they are a dentist, they are a CEO, they are your bio. She is everything. Nancy is it all. But I do want you to speak about the company that we were learning about that you co-founded. Can you give us just sort of a longer form in terms of what you do, who you serve?
Well, I co-manage Build It Up, and Build It Up, as the name says it so, is about building things up. And we started with what we do best, which is infrastructure. And we started building infrastructure, helping others build infrastructure. But along the way, we start hearing people have problems with their business. And this was something that we started doing it on the side, and because we liked people. And people would come to us and would say, hey, you can use this tool, or you can do it this, try this thing, try this other. And then it became something that we could sell, because Build It Up is not just about companies, and it's not just about infrastructural projects, but it's also about people, about building people, helping people build dreams, build companies, or build a life they want to lead.
So now we hear that greater vision. How does that look in a practical sense? Who would hire you? What type of company would hire you, and what would that relationship look like?
Well, when it comes to the business area of Build It Up, we have dealt with a lot of entrepreneurs who have an idea, but they don't know how to take it into reality. But we have also worked with people who have 10 years in this sector or that industry, and that they have just reached a point where they cannot seem to grow anymore, despite their effort, despite their vision, and their investment. So we help them to streamline those processes, to change the perspective of what they're doing and achieve their goals. So it really varies. We go from 0 to 100. And what makes us valuable to others is we tailor the processes to your needs. It's not like a cookie cutter business for everyone, but no, we listen to what you need. We start with what you have, but we focus on your strengths. And for that, every person is just different. Even families, when it comes to a family owned business, we do not only go with the person, but with the whole family that works at the company, so that you can understand. Let's say you and your sister have a business together, then we would go to your strengths and her strengths. And that discovery is shocking to most people, because you start understanding, oh, this is why am I like this, or this is why I like, or for me it's easy to do this or do that. And it just becomes transparent, to use your strengths and your abilities and the things that you're already good at, to in a larger scale, as superpowers, if you want to look at it like that.
Yeah, I want to get some more details about specifically Strengths Quest and then the Business Growth Accelerator. How does
Okay.
that work? How does somebody join in on that, and who is that for?
Well, one is for per people, for individuals, and the other one is for already established companies. Although once a year we have cohorts for people who are willing to start a company in 90 days, who have an idea and they don't know what to do next. So we have, like, every year one program that is oriented to those people. And you come with your idea and we help you make it real. Now, when it comes to the Business Growth Accelerator, that is for companies or for people who want to start a company. But the Strength Finder, that would only be for individuals.
Ah, okay, understood. So listen, we are doing something on this session that we have never done before. We mentioned that Nancy is a co-founder of Build It Up, which is this consulting firm. We've learned a little bit about what the consulting firm does. And now, Nancy, I want you to introduce us to the two guests who have just joined us. Welcome, gentlemen. Nancy, I'll let you tell us who's joining us as our special guests here.
Thank you. So with us are Carlos Solis and Danny Fajardo. Um, Danny has a lot of experience, 20 plus years experience in finance and operations. He's a creator, he's an entrepreneur, and he has such creative ideas to add value to people. And Carlos, I've been working with Carlos for the past 14 years, and he's such an incredible person. He has a lot of insight when it comes to strengths and how to help people build on those strengths, and a specialist in operations management. Thank you, Jenny.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay. Well, I want both of you to go ahead and introduce yourselves to give us a short bio. I would do it myself, but I don't have that information in front of me. Otherwise, I'd give you the same big, robust bio that we gave for Nancy. But Carlos, go ahead and unmute and tell us a little bit about yourself, just so people know what types of questions they can ask you and what your expertise is.
Sure. Hi, Jenny. How are you? And nice to meet you and everybody here online with us. Hi, Danny. Hi, Nancy. Well, as Nancy said, we've been working together for the past 14 years. Um, if you want a brief resume about myself, I've been working on international project management as well. Lately, we've been doing this strengths quest with Nancy, which is basically starting with strengths-driven and strengths-driven leadership specifically. So we help individuals to do an assessment on themselves and understand better what their strengths are, how to identify their own talents, and allowing them to have plans drafted for them to start understanding how to develop those talents for them to become strengths, so that the investment they do in all the activities or whatever is the tasks or their undertakings are conducive to having strengths developed. All right, so I've been doing a lot of project management in Central America, Mexico, and the Caribbean. I also do a lot of operations management, infrastructure management, and I also completed a degree in data analysis and business analysis as well. So this is basically what I've done for the past 18 years. This is my my area of expertise. So just go ahead and ask away.
That's great. And Carlos, this is so helpful just to get to know you better on that realm. And some people watching this will be deeply entrenched in the business world, and some people are brand new. And I promise you, they're saying, "What does operations mean? Somebody please ask, what does project management mean?" And so I am the one to ask those questions, so that if anybody is wondering, what exactly does that mean? If you can explain it to me, like I am just brand new to this world.
Okay, so operations management is basically understanding all the tasks that a company does. All right, so all of the processes, what are the inputs, what are the procedures that are done inside the company, and what are the expected outcomes. All right, so for people who don't know what this is something that can be used from small companies. I mean, of course, you're not going to do the whole thing related to operations management for a small company, but there are a lot of principles that apply to any company independently of what the size is. All right. So basically, what you're doing is understanding what the company does from the inside out.
I can't thank you enough for that description, because I know that there's people that are thinking, Is it too late to ask what that is? So I appreciate the question or the answer to that, because it helps people to understand what types of questions they can ask you as they're looking at their own businesses, and they're wondering, gosh, what is operations and what do I need to get done? So that is perfect. We'll get into some Q&A with you, Carlos, in just a minute. But since we have Danny here too,
Sure.
it sounds like we have a finance and operations brain. Danny, I'll let you go ahead and unmute yourself and give us your bio. We want to hear what you do, what you specialize in, and what types of things people could ask you about.
All right. Hi, Jenny. Hi, everybody. My name is Danny Fajardo. I do two main things, Jenny. So I am passionate to help companies grow. And I know that's very basic, but there's a lot to this, right? There are a lot of operational things, marketing things, sales, leadership, and strategy related to this. So this is the cohort program that Nancy was talking about earlier. And this is how we get involved, right? So we come in, we take a company by the hand and help them to get to the next level. On another hand, I'm also a personal growth coach, and I love specializing on empowering leaders and aspiring leaders to transform self-doubt into strong internal beliefs and unlocking their next level of greatness. So this is something that I also do. I work one-on-one with many people. I also provide coaching and training geared towards that. To give you a little bit of my background, I'm an industrial engineer. So we are fellow engineers with Nancy. And I'm also from Honduras. I live in the States now, and I've been living here for the past 12 years. And I've had my, I would say, a journey, right? I've been in and out of the United States for a long time. I studied here both my undergrad in industrial engineering and my graduate degree in an MBA. And all through this time, I have seen, a lot of development towards what an entrepreneur is and what it means to be an entrepreneur, a modern entrepreneur, I would say, right? And how that keeps shifting. And I know how much need there is out there to help people make their dreams come true. And this is the part that I enjoy, right? Helping people make their dreams come true. And in that sense, I'm talking about the two things I dedicate myself to, which is helping companies, so entrepreneurs, make their dreams come true, but also help people get to their maximum level. That is something I'm very passionate about. And I get to do it on a constant basis. And I love when people tell me their great stories about, oh my God, I'm getting ahead of my life, right? I'm doing what I want to do. I have my dreams are coming to life. That fulfills me more than anything else. And that's why I keep doing this. So I'm here to support anybody who needs support. My part of my passion is to help people out, and I hope that if you guys need us or need any kind of help, be it as a business or as an individual, we would be happy to lend you our hand and help you get through to the next level.
I appreciate that, Danny. Thank you so much. It's great to be acquainted. Great to get to know you here on the webinar. And then Carlos, I'll go back to you. So let's talk about this operation situation. You're seeing people in all phases of business, from just starting off with an idea to where they have a business and they're working through the kinks. What is the biggest mistake that you see entrepreneurs make when it comes to the operations component of their business?
I think that, and I've seen it as well, is that they do operations management without a strategy. All right. So if I go back to the definition I gave you before, operations management is what turns strategy into execution, which means turning the vision into value. So if you start something without knowing why you're doing it, or if there's a bigger goal that you need to pursue, then of course you have absolutely no sense, because you're doing like repetitive activities that add no value. So that's specific. Personally, what I think is one of the biggest mistakes, that they handle things like they're silos, like they're things that don't go together, and they actually do.
And so what's the solve for that?
Well, the understanding that you go from top to bottom. if you have a clearly defined goal, where you're going, all the resources that you're going to do, the resource allocation, the resource management, the quality control, all of this align to a goal. If we can add some other things on top of that, like supply chain and inventories, the capacity, the scheduling, the cost management, the quality improvement, you have to align all those, let's call it steps, or we can call it also like the links on a chain. And if they're not well aligned or welded well together, then you're doing nothing basically.
So we're welding together. And what does that look like in a practical sense, in a day in, day out for, I'm Jenny and I have a small business where I employ nail techs. What does that look like for me?
That looks a lot like planning, because in small business, specifically in family businesses, we have a lot of personalities. We have some competing priorities. We have competing egos, and if there's not someone or a head that can put everything together into a plan. For example, if you have a small company that does manufacturing, whatever it is, if you have no clear idea that you have to stack the shelves with the shoes that are selling the most, or with the purses, or with the snacks that are selling best, then everything else is going to be like you're going to have overstock, or you're going to have different issues that are not being addressed properly. And this is how a company suffers, because it starts making a lot of things that are probably not going to sell, or you're trying to address or solve issues without identifying what the real issue is, without doing a proper cost root analysis, or these are the symptoms of how these things are sometimes not aligned, and how the business can suffer.
Totally makes sense. Hey, Danny, I'm going to turn it over to you and actually follow up with a similar question with regard to finance. What's the biggest mistake that you see when you're starting to work with somebody and you think, oh, no. What you've got going here in the finance realm is never going to work. I've seen it 100 times. It never works. What is that? Just so if somebody is doing that, they can say, ooh, Danny warned me against that.
Yes, let me give you, when I think about this, I think about the stage that the company's in, right? And there are different mistakes that you can make at different stages. But if you're an early entrepreneur and you're just starting your company, you're probably going to be more worried about getting some sales in, some money in, right? And I think we all fall into that problem, because that's what's going to keep us alive at the end of the day. But the fact is that if you don't have a solid system to control your finances, you're going to start losing money, and probably losing it fast. So it's very important to keep that in mind, that you have to put everything in order. And it doesn't have to be something complicated. It can be manual to start off with, but eventually it should become something more systemic that doesn't keep you from doing your main activities, right? And taking time away from the main tasks. But that's one of the biggest problems that I see with early entrepreneurs, right? You just want to start doing what you're good at. And it probably is not finance, right? That is not your priority at that point. But you have to remember that it is a core pillar of what you're going to be doing next. And if you don't have it aligned and structured well, it is going to keep you from growing. So that's one of the things that we tend to work on immediately with new companies. First of all, helping the owner understand the importance of doing this and doing it well. And then the other part of this is also like helping them structure this in such a way that they can manage it, right? Especially if they're solopreneurs, but even if they have a team, how do you manage this and do it well without it interfering with anything else that you're doing, right? And I won't even talk about taxes right now, Jenny, because it's tied by the hip. And that's a very delicate subject as well, that if you don't have your finances in place, that taxes are going to hurt you eventually. Now, the other part, if you are already a company that's well established and is ready for growth, and then you find out that you have gaps all over the place with how you manage finance, it can be something as simple as cost control, right? Or pricing. then it's going to be very difficult to set up the rest of the company in operations and sales for growth, right? Because you don't have the base to do that, and you will find that out pretty quickly, right? It's going to be a gap that is going to pop up almost immediately as you try and set up your business for additional growth. So that's something that we also work on with companies that are a little bit more mature, right? That have probably between 10 and 20 employees already, and then have steady income streams, right? We try and help them out to establish even more robust financial systems that are going to support them through the process of growing.
Yeah, it sounds a lot to me like, Danny, this is a situation where if you just want to do the thing you like to do, I'll go back to, let's say I'm Jenny and I have a nail salon, and I've always liked to do nails myself. So I think, well, I'm going to open up a nail salon. My passion is doing nails. It's not doing the finances or the business or dealing with customers. I like the artistry. It sounds like if you're going to commit to doing the business, you have to be really open to doing the things that are outside of the artistry. Is that accurate?
That is correct. The thing is that you have to understand that that's not the core of your business, right? That's not what brings in the money. And unfortunately, that is a fact, right? But it's something that you have to build around because otherwise your system, the rest of your business is going to suffer eventually, right? You're going to start losing money. You're not going to be able to keep track of your responsibilities. It's going to be really hard then to, tax season comes over, to have everything ready for tax. It becomes very painful to manage, right? And yeah, we all tend to work towards what we're good at. And most companies start that way, Jenny. I mean, if you're good at something, that's what you do, right? That's what the product you offer, the service that you give people, that's your core product offering. So it is normal, but I think we need to learn that as we prepare ourselves to become a company, part of the responsibility is to take care of everything that a company is. And you have to learn what that is. So it involves operation, people, leadership, strategy, and finance, of course, right? So you have to keep that in mind, that you will have to get to that pretty soon. And you have to make things that work for you, right? That give the company what the company needs, but also work for you. So I'm not saying that all of a sudden you have to keep all day like doing the books, right? And not selling anything. That would be insane. You would have to find ways in which you can work on the basic things that your company requires at that certain point of the company's life, take care of it, and be able to provide for it in such a way that you keep your company healthy and with the ability to grow even more.
Yes, that definitely makes sense. So Nancy, I want to go back to you. We're talking about business strategy. Each one of you in your own way have alluded to or touched on that you've dealt with people who have family businesses. It's obviously such a common thing. So many of us, we have a gifting and then we notice that a sibling or a parent or a child has another gifting and we think, voila, we should go into business together. We should make this happen. This would be magical. Nancy, when it comes to business strategy, and I'm probably, Danny and Carlos, going to circle around to you with this similar question as well. When it comes to business strategy, what do we need to keep in mind when we're structuring how our business is going to work, specifically if we are doing it as a family business?
Well, you see, family business or family-owned businesses, normally the books tell you it's 2 generations, and the third one is going to make it close. And that is just statistics, because what happens is as humans, we are different. And one of the challenges families face is the fact that their dining room becomes the war room. And this is something that most of the time we need to walk through with people to understand that as a family, you need to stay solid, but as a business, you have to stay solid as well. So there will be compartments in your life where family does not count, and compartments of your life where business is not part of the conversation, because you need to avoid that your dining room becomes your war room. So in doing that, finding out your strengths and learning to work with them as a family, but as a team, that is what really makes a business thrive. the minute this family starts working as a team. And it happens by knowing each other. Because one thing is the way you know your siblings, but do you actually know your siblings' strengths when it comes to business? Do you know what their ideas are on finances or strategies or growth? And precisely facilitating those conversations, but coming from strengths, it what really marks the difference to any business from a strategic point of view.
Now, do you have any, we're talking big level and you're using, these business terms and stuff, but like in a practical sense, this is going to happen just sitting around the dining room table, like, okay, we're going to do this business together. And mom says, well, I'm obviously the CEO. And somebody else says, well, not really, mom. Like, you're the boss around here, but I'm the one with the such and such skills. What's the best way to go about deciding that and deciding the structure and making sure that it's firm?
Well, normally families do that. They will come to you with an idea of how they want to mark their structure. This is something they do before even consulting with you. So throughout the quest, throughout Strength Quest, the process, they start learning more about each other. And what we've seen happen is they switch. They start saying, oh, but this person is better at this, and this one is naturally good at that. How would you feel doing this instead of doing that? But what really makes a difference is that it has to come from them, because in the end, it's your business you're building, and it's the business you will want to grow with, and it's the business you want to be successful with. So finding your place in your own company is something that sparks in a family. And I think Carlos can tell you more about an experience because he was leading one of our consultancy with a married couple trying to get into business in the fashion business with a company in the Caribbean. So that was a great experience because it not only helped them as a family, but also helped them a lot to see the role each of them would have in a fashion company.
Yeah, please, by all means, Carlos, go ahead and elaborate on that, what she was speaking about.
Sure. So, well, we were working with this couple in the Dominican Republic, and we did this strengths leadership assessment with them, and it helped them understand why they work together, so to speak. It was a very interesting exercise for us to conduct with them, specifically because they complemented each other so perfectly in a sense that they would never have known otherwise. So we did this because we want to put this assessment as a base on what is going to give their business and their its own identity, right? So we realized that one of them was very futuristic. This is one of the competences that the assessment told us he had. So a futuristic person, what does this look like? So it's someone who is always ideating things, looking way into the future, has this strategic way of thinking. And the other one was an activator. An activator is a person who needs things now. We need to start. When do we start? How do we start this? So while the futuristic has this ideas about the future and how to build something that's gonna capitalize, and not now, but some time ahead, these people tend to lose time in thinking and ideating and stuff like that. But the other person was the one who pulled them down to earth and said, okay, we need to start someday. Maybe not today, but we need to set a date for this. So that's what it looked like. That's what it looks like. So if you want another example on how family businesses can thrive and understand how they can move along, is have clear rules, clear governance rules. Because in families, sometimes we already have a role that we play, and sometimes it's very difficult to change that role or how we see ourselves within that group. So having clear rules is something that is going to help a lot, specifically when the governance rules are set very clear, when there's a structure, when there are roles, who's going to establish the, so to say, the board of directors, even if it's informal, but they're the ones who drive the strategic decisions. And advisory boards, having other set of people that are not directly involved with the business, having as an advice for those who are actually involved in it. So this will avoid confusions, favoritism, or or the perception of this favoritism or internal power struggles that are so common in not only family groups, but probably friends that come together and start or decide to go into business together. All right. So this is basically what I would think would help the most and would be the like the starting point to avoid any of these issues like power struggles and things like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so Danny, let's talk about the finance part of it. What's the first thing that you tell families when it comes to finances? What do they need? Obviously, you know, they can work with you and it sounds like when you work with all three of you, you're getting this full business strategy, but just so people can glean some information, have some just takeaway tidbits to think about when going into a family business, what are the biggest financial things to think about right off the bat?
Yeah, so the main thing is keep the family finance separate from the business finance, right? And this is very important because I've seen it and keep seeing it over again, right? In which you basically assume that everything that you manage through a business you have access to and you can use at any given time. And all of a sudden you start spending money from your business accounts and vice versa. And then you start using your credit cards to pay for business expenses. And that creates a big mess, right? You lose track of what's happening, what you're doing, what's working, what's not working. You basically don't know what's going on because you lose track of all this stuff. And to be honest with you, I've had several experiences with working with family and everything that Nancy and Carlos said is totally true. But this is one of the biggest ones, right? People assume that they have access to the money either way, and that it doesn't matter, right? Where you use it at, as long as you're using it for the right things. And the fact is that it just does not work. You have to keep them separate, right? So open up. My advice would be to anybody is to open up bank accounts for your company. And if you need credit cards, if credit cards for your company. If not, if you're using your own credit cards, create a system in which you repay those credit cards and account for those expenses for your company. And vice versa. Don't use your personal accounts to spend in the company. So it's very important to keep that top of mind, Jenny, because it's something that gets disregarded very quickly in the hassle, right? And I said that earlier too. It's not your core competency, right, to be doing this and to create that separation, but it's something that you really need to do. And the way that you treat personal finances is very different from the way that you treat business finances, starting with taxes, right? Taxes are sacred in corporate finance. And then you have to keep, I always advise people to keep like a separate account where you keep your tax money and you don't touch it, right? So you don't have to be surprised at the end of the year and when tax season comes over, and then you don't have the money to pay for that. Your personal finances is totally different, right? You work for someone, or if you pay taxes out of your company, you have to keep those stashed in one single place, not separate places, where you can actually account for that money in an easy way.
Okay, that makes sense, right? Because yeah, it's stressing me out just thinking about it, to be honest with you. It really is.
It's not my intention, Jenny. I don't want to stress you out.
It's just good. I'm like, wow, that could get real crazy because all of a sudden I'm like, the business needs a new, we need new paint on the walls. And so I'm going to go just pay for that. And then somebody else in the family business is saying, Jenny, why are you always paying? Yeah, it just, I see how it could just get real messy, real quick. So I can appreciate having that plan in advance. Carlos and Danny, I can't thank you enough for popping in and for sharing your expertise. Nancy, I will wrap up with you. I want to hear sort of a tease ahead to next week, right? Because we were able to glean this information from all three of you today, which was so fun to be able to have a panel of three and just like sort of hear from the whole fantastic team as we're seeing up on the screen. But what is the plan for next week, Nancy? Give us a tease ahead so that people know what they can expect next week.
Well, so this is a two-piece conversation, like you said at the beginning of the presentation. And as a group, we want to let you know that at the end of the day, alignment is not a luxury. Never think of alignment as a luxury. And when it comes to alignment, I'm talking about what I think with what I do. And it has to be aligned. Otherwise, I'm not going to advance in the direction of my goals. So saying that alignment is not a luxury allows me to understand that it is the foundation of sustainable success. Because in the end, we don't want the success of our companies to be a miracle, a strike of luck, because sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. Somebody gets lucky with an idea and say, hey, I didn't plan on anything. It just happened. But that's not the rule. That is something that happened to a person in 1,000. It's not the rule. So choosing to honor our strengths, choosing to honor our convictions and our ideas is definitely one of the most courageous decisions that you will make towards your success. It makes you powerful to honor your ideas.
That is the perfect way to, oh, sorry, Nancy, go ahead.
No, it's okay. So basically, this is the thought I want to leave you with for our upcoming session. And try to think, what is it that you want to do? And don't wait, because a lot of good ideas die in that period when we're waiting for things to be perfect. You have to align your thoughts with your actions. Otherwise, things are not going to happen. So hope to see you next week.
Very powerful message to end with, Nancy. I thank you so much for your time today. Again, next week, same time, same place. The topic is smart growth, 5 strategic moves to scale your business using your natural strengths with Nancy Pérez. So look forward to seeing all of you there. To get the replay of this session, it will be on Sarah National's YouTube channel by next Wednesday. So we give about 6 days to get that up on the channel. You'll be able to watch the replay of that. And then same thing with next week. You'll be able to chat with us live, and you'll be able to post your questions in the chat as well and be able to have some dialogue there. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.